What is up? Hello and welcome. Thank you guys for tuning in live. If you are watching it live right now, please like the stream, which I think you already have done. Up the pooper. Your name is ridiculous. This is the TSXL, I think it's event 4 if I'm not mistaken, layout review video. And I believe Up the Pooper made this layout, like replicated what he saw on either paper or something. I think that's what happened. So thank you for that. I don't know what it is with local regional tournaments not like making their layouts publicly available on gunsup.com. You guys stop doing that. That's super annoying. So we're gonna look at this layout. We're going to assume that it is as accurate as best as possible to what the layout will actually be. But big shout out to who created this Guns Up layout. If you guys are longtime viewers and not subscribers, be sure to click the subscribe button. It's totally free. It helps me out a lot, especially if this is like your 3rd video of mine or 4th, 5th. I don't know. I still have like a massive chunk of my audience that is not subscribed, which is kind of funny to me. And if you're a longtime subscriber, consider supporting the channel by becoming a member. You can find out the different tiers and what value there is there by clicking the join button. It's, you know, we have a low tier of like $3 a month. Helps me out. Even though it's $3, it does help me out a lot. So I'm gonna start, I think I can actually start budgeting money towards like a video editor to get more videos out and focus more of my time and attention on doing this kind of stuff, because as you guys know, it's been a while since I've actually made like a fully edited video. So in any case, we're gonna go over this layout kind of quickly. I do have some stuff I have to take care of, so we're going to give it the time and attention it deserves, but we're just going to try and do it as fast as possible. And hopefully I don't have any computer problems, because I had been having some computer problems just before this. So the very first thing that we do, oh, this layout looks small. I wonder if it's on the normal regulation size, but I'm sure it is. So the very first thing we like to do is we like to draw these zones to see where people are likely going to be on the breakout. And in fact, actually, I would probably draw it like this. 1 second. Turn this down just a little. Doritos zone is easy. And this is a tricky one. I'd probably draw this zone right here. So the purpose for these zones, as you guys always hear me say, is to be able to put together where you'd likely find the next body in the case that you eliminated a player. It's also the, you know, it's used to kind of guess where we would likely find a default standard breakout. So in the case that, you know, we found the number 1 player here, it's probably the case that we'll find the number 2 player right behind him in this bunker as well. But in either case, the zones, as you know, is either Iowa or Dragon. If you use Iowa, the next one is Nevada. After that, it's Texas, Oklahoma, Arizona, or Charger. You use Dragon and Charger if you only want to use the outermost zones. Otherwise, if you want to use the zones beyond that point, you should use Iowa through Arizona. I promise you, by the way, if you're not using zones currently in your gameplay, you should absolutely use zones. It will drastically improve your IQ, I promise. Interesting. So, and the other purpose is that we are trying to inform our front players as to when they can just pretty much be aggressive and wrap on the outside of their bunkers to get as much ground as possible. That's the other purpose for those zones. So once we draw those zones, then what we're looking at is what sort of routes exist running along the baseline, and what, you know, what sort of shots exist. So Up the Pooper, no problem, man. Interesting that the back center is a pin. That's pretty cool. I actually really like that. You have you actually have a really strong dead zone right here. First thing I notice is if you use this to blind out the home, you have a really strong gap that you can shoot right here. I would suspect that that gap is strong enough that you'll probably have people running out to this brick and shooting over the top at this, you know, back at the home essentially, because this gap is super free. So be aware of that if you're playing from the home, it might be worth it to either shoot directly at this gap right here, or as you're running out to this brick, shooting paint over the top of this bunker right here, because there's going to be a guy right there probably. Otherwise, if you keep going, you do have some up the gut shots if they decide to take the 50 off the break. I'm not sure why they would, but that does exist. You could probably use this as a blind like a zone to hold this gap right here, but you're kind of trading your front players' jobs, right? These guys are trying to go out wide. You're going to be going here as a way to shoot that. I don't know if that's really worth it, but that shot does exist. Otherwise, you have pretty standard heads-up shots. Huge gap right here, by the way. When anytime you have a huge gap, the way that you improve your survivability is changing the route that you're going, because the difference between running into the snake, for example, or running to the corner is meaningfully different in terms of where you have to put your paint when you're shooting, because the difference between, you know, shooting paint in this zone versus this zone is pretty significant. So especially if you do it, especially if you even actually run along the baseline. If you run all the way back here, this gap to shoot is much different than that gap to shoot. So if we do continue along the baseline, we have quite a bit of shots towards the home. And in fact, if you actually are running and gunning out to the corner, the very first thing I would do is probably shoot at the home from here, which would make this very hard for him to survive. But I would assume that the home guy would be shooting at you running out to the corner if they were looking snake way. So after that, super straight heads up, very strong corner bunker. This corner bunker is super, super strong. Usually the way that we determine that, the strength of a corner bunker is determined by if it's a true tape, which in this case it is not, but it's strong because of the fact that when you wrap from this bunker, you can see everything from the back center up until the tape, essentially. You can see all of these people. And even this wedge right here, which is super, super strong. So this is definitely a key bunker, I would say. We're going to mark this as a key bunker right away. If we then go over to the other side and we run and gun, you do have a gap right here, which is actually really strong. So this gap would be a great crossfield shot for people running out to this can, right? So we said that the shot from the home isn't really there, but it actually is if they stand in this dead zone right here. Oh, excuse me, is that the... Okay, so this is the gap out to the snake can. So if you stop here, super strong. We can talk about what you can do after that, but otherwise, you do have over the top shots as you're running to hit people. If you shoot over that right there, continually running out. You do have a shot either from this guy or the home shooting your way, but I really don't see you dying from anybody out here. I don't see you dying from this cross shot at this point, because that'd be very hard for them to hit you while you're running, while they're running and you're diving. So this this tower is pretty safe to make. I would actually say that the Dorito side is super safe for the most part. The home guy is definitely the biggest concern. That shot is going to be pretty bad for you. And then outside of that, if we rounded the corner, the biggest thing we've got is any running and gunning that goes out to here, right? So if I'm running and gunning out to this corner and I get here, the very first person I'm going to be shooting for is this gap right here, for the guy running to the corner. But otherwise, get into this kind of corner-ish bunker. Got a pretty good cross shot onto that really strong snake corner. So if you do play the snake corner on this field, you do have to play tight into your bunker and be mindful of that crossfield shot. So that is that so far. Now let's look at the middle and see what that looks like. So we did establish that from the actual pin itself, you do have shots. They're kind of bad, to be honest. This shot is non-existent. This shot is there, but that's a hard shot to make. You can't really see anything in the snake except for the landing zone, and even that is not great. You're hitting somebody's pack or the top of their head at best. Anything over on the Dorito side, you do have this gap here we established. You could shoot that, but I actually feel like if you want to shoot the Dorito side, you should play this dead zone. This is a much stronger gap, and if you wanted to shoot the snake side, it would be better for you to play this gap right here, which tells me that these gaps are going to be standard practice right here. And that tells me that you should be... the way that you kind of play that or mind game that, I guess. Where was that gap? Was it right here? Why can't I... Oh, it's straight up... Okay, it's like right here. Right? Yeah. Yep, that's the gap. So if you If you start dying in these zones, then you're going to have to put somebody in the back center to survive it, in which case you have a better shot on the Dorito side than you do in the snake. But it's also possible that you just put paint up the center too, so be mindful of that. Even though you've got really strong shots, it's also possible that you just pump paint here. It also is that with this layout being as strong as it is in terms of these dead zones back here, it's also possible that you do kind of like a 3-man stack off the break, where this home guy shoots up the middle, and then this dude does his thing where he shoots in this gap, and this guy does his thing where he shoots this gap, and then this person just goes to the brick when he's done, or out to the can, or excuse me, out to the Aztec, depending on where the front player went. And then same thing for the snake guy. It's either an option for him to go up to this wedge or for him to go right here. So totally possible. We'll look at that in greater detail here in a minute. But if you do decide to shoot the gap, within the first 10 seconds of the point, you could run up here. You're really safe. The biggest issue is going to be anybody that stays dedicated on the cross field. So if this guy stays dedicated on the cross, you are absolutely dead. There's nothing you can do about that. If in the first 10 seconds of the point, this guy dives and looks inside, you'll die in this as well. It's not very likely, and I'm not even suggesting to make this play. I'm just kind of curious as to what's going to stop it. If you get to the 50, obviously this pin guy is dead. Really no way of surviving that, I would say. Like, you could, but they're going to get pinched out super hard. Can guy, if he's not looking at you, is not going to die. And then otherwise, you don't really have any views of the snake until they get to the snake 2, which this is not a great position for you. If you shoot the snake and you miss, you can't really hide from him. You have to kind of face one side or the other. So essentially you have to live behind your gun. So with that being the case, then if you played this position and off the break, you know you shot somebody right here, I would take this bite. I would take this bite and keep running and gunning until you can get to here to then stop this zone right here. Even if you only tiger the number 2, so like let's say for example, we'll back up here. So let's say, for example, you tiger this guy and there's a number 3 here and a number 1 made it into the snake. I would still probably make that move, because all you really have to do is then shoot this guy to get him to flinch and then come out here and look this way when you do it. And then this is like a super strong gap to hold. But again, you could probably kill the home guy that way. So if you tiger the number 2, wrap on the home guy and then get him to flinch and come out here and look for those Dorito kills. Look for those Dorito kills either on the run and gun. This is not a hard run and gun if you're decent at running and gunning at all, to shoot this guy. So at worst, it's a trade. It's essentially a 2-for-1 trade, because you killed the snake side guy. But at best, you kill that guy and he doesn't even respond to you, and then you get here and boom, you're like in the snake's business. This guy can't do much. He's not going anywhere. He can't challenge you. You're too close. And the pin guy is just like super uncomfortable, and he has to essentially come and run you down, which he will do. But so that's that route. If you decide to come to this Aztec, you go here and slide to this Aztec. You've actually got a pretty safe gap to hold here. If they get to the snake 2, you're dead. So you have to, it's either a make or break gap. You have to stop them here or you die, because if they get to the snake 2, you're just so, it's going to be so hard for you to live there. Otherwise, if you decide to look Dorito way, you can't see really anything. You could shoot the home. You could use this as a leapfrog bunker up to the middle. I don't know why you would do that. I probably would use that bunker to leapfrog if you went here off the break and was shooting some kind of crossfield shot and then came here and then came here. That's just a way to take smaller bites to do the same thing after the first 10 seconds have passed. Because yeah, we have to be much more careful about going up the middle after the first 10 seconds, and so sometimes we can't take those huge bites. Okay, if we do this can now, then if we were to shoot up to the middle and shoot this can, this is so strong, man. This is so strong. So much kill potential here. A lot of kill potential and very safe from the snake. So you obviously have a snake 2 shot that does exist. That's going to be scary, but super, super safe to shoot the Dorito side. So if you stop them here, you are in a really great position to entirely halt the Dorito side push. If you then decide to go up to this wedge, you lose visibility of the Doritos, And this essentially becomes a snake side hold bunker, and it's not great. Not really great to do that. You can't really see any of the 50. Yeah, that wedge is not great. It's really just to blind out the corner. You also do have a corner shot that would surprise some people, but it also means that you need to be aware of it as well. So far, I think this bunker is really strong. This bunker is really strong. That's kind of what we've seen so far. And then these gaps, this gap is really strong, and this gap is really strong. That's what we've learned so far. Going then to the snake side really quick. So if we get to this can, we have a pretty wide breakout. So if you get stuck, let's say they've put a guy here and a guy here, this is going to be a very hard bump to make. It is doable. It is straightforward, but it is very difficult. It will be very difficult to make this gap if they got out wider than you. So here's my recommendation. If you're the number one and you pull up here and you see the guy running to this corner, you need to challenge this guy immediately and then take the bite and get here right away. And then you can take the bite again where you go low enough to shoot this dude. You just got to blind this guy. You got to make sure he's not shooting down on you. But if you get super low, shoot the can, then you can make this gap pretty for free. I wouldn't worry about the home. The home guy could shoot at you. I just don't really feel like people are going to be playing the home very often. So in the first 10 seconds, you're probably safe to make that move. Because look at, I mean, unless this isn't how the tournament's actually going to be, if that gap is, that's pretty small. If that gap is much bigger, you're pretty safe to take this bite right away. First target of concern is definitely this can guy. I know we said that wasn't a great angle, but this is an angle for you. If you want to ignore him, you might be able to if you just get low and crawl right here. I don't know if the tournament you'll be able to see that or not. And then the first kill that you can get is really on this Dorito guy. That's with that being a small Dorito, that's a pretty likely headshot. So that would be the first target I would look for. Anything in this bunker? You might be able to see the juice box's pack, but I would doubt it. And I don't think you're gonna see. You're gonna force this guy to live behind his gun if he's in that Aztec. But wait. Yeah, I mean, what I would say is just be cautious. I would think that people are gonna send somebody either in these two bunkers. I doubt that you would find a team that puts their number 3 here and their number 2 on the Dorito side here, and then this guy's looking this way and this guy's looking this way. It's just not good. That's just not, that would be bad. So I would suspect that if you do this heads up battle that I talked about, where you know there's a guy in the corner, you know this guy's here, and then you head check and you see that this guy's here, then you kind of know where they're at, right? This is going to be the number 2. This is going to be it's possible for these to be reversed. So it's possible for this to be the number 1, number 2, and this guy's the number 3. And if this guy's staring at you, then you know it's a snake side heavy push. It means that you need to call. We have a call for it. It's called disco, where we're essentially shouting, "Hey, Dorito side, you need to do something," because we've got 3 bodies over here. So disco is our call for that, which is disco D Dorito, salsa S snake. That's how we do that. So if that same could be true for the Dorito side. So then getting in here, wrapping low. It's possible, like I said, for the can to see you, but you might just be able to ignore him. I'm not sure. And then if you get to this 50-ish area, you can't ignore the corner, it looks like. Obviously, heads up, you need to be worried about whatever the front guy's doing. But here is where the Dorito guy is dead for sure. And the Dorito 2 guy, maybe they call it the Dorito 1, I'm not sure. I'd probably call it the Dorito 2. That guy is going to die as well as this guy right here. So if you take the challenge from this angle, actually the Dorito 2 guy might be alive. This guy might be okay, but I would think you'd kill this guy and this guy for sure. That's the Dorito 50 guy. Getting into the actual, so you don't, I wouldn't even think that you need to get up to the cake. You could take this challenge right here and this little gap, because when you get to the cake and you do you don't really have much. Kind of have to back off of it anyway. Over the top, you have a really great snapshot on the can, and you have an instant kill on the home guy. The home guy cannot survive. So the biggest thing is do not get stuck. Do not get stuck at the home. You need to get out of the home. I would really only use that bunker for some kind of off the break shot, and then I would get out. That would be my suggestion. And then if we continue along this path, we can't ignore the can. If there is a guy in the can right here, he will shoot our pack if we try to go underneath it. So at this point, the can is like a hard stop for any snake side push. Hard stop for this position is going to be... I would think the wedge could be a hard stop, and the Aztec could be a hard stop. These two bunkers right here are hard stops from this wing, this W, or excuse me, the mini wedge. And then you might be getting a crossfield shot at this guy. This guy might actually be doing some annoying stuff to you. So maybe that tells us then that a breakout could be that we send our number 3. So maybe our number 3 goes here, and he shoots this snake side gap, and then when he finishes that, he goes here and he shoots this snake side gap. That'd be very easy to do. It's possible that you double this up. I don't know why you would. We'll look at it in a second, but yeah, I actually probably wouldn't even bother. So if you're gonna do that play, I would probably say that means you're pushing your Dorito side out. Instead of doubling this up, I'd probably avoid that. It's possible that you do double it up, and then you send your number 3 up here at some point to get a better angle on the snake gap. Because let's say, for example, you are holding the snake gap, they get past it somehow. Well, now you kind of have to filter up here. If your job is to stop the snake, that's kind of your natural read and react play. So that's what I would do, is kind of you have a step 1 here, step 2 here, step 3 here. That would be the route I would take, and it's all for the purpose of stopping the snake side. So that would tell me that this is probably a pretty important bunker, this is an important bunker, and this is an important bunker. Right? Is that what we said? Can't remember. Did we say this was important? Oh, we said this bunker was important. Yeah, it's still important. What was this bunker? Yeah, this is actually an alternative to that as well. Instead of sending your number 3 to look cross field for that gap, you could actually just send your number 2 right here, and he has even a wider gap for that same shot. So if that's the case, then what you could do is you could probably do some number 3 trickery to do that, or he could go here, or he could go here and do a 3-man push through to side. So what's up, Travis? What's up? Okay, so then let's look at the let's look at this wedge. Oh, we did already. Okay, let's look at the Dorito side, and then we'll be done. So again, here you don't really see a whole lot. If you did come here, you could shoot. So again, we're shooting up the gap. If we play this like dead zone, we're shooting up this gap, and then probably when we run out to the corner, we're shooting for this corner runner, and then we're also going to switch and shoot for this snake gap if we decide to play this brick looking on the inside. From here, you actually do have a very strong up the center move. So again, if they pass this snake side, if they pass this zone right here, then our natural move is going to be to go here. If our responsibility is to stop the snake, we're going to come up here, and we're going to put ourselves in this position. The biggest issue with this is that you have to kill this guy. This is a make or break, as we said. It's a high risk, high reward sort of play, because you can't really hide from the snake. You can play on the outside of your bunker like this, but you have to get out of here. So, which you could probably bail to the wedge. You probably could. It would be very hard, but you could probably wrap, shoot here, come to this wedge, and boom. You just have to make sure the home guy's not looking at you. Playing the brick on this side, you've got a very strong gap right here. Super, super strong, in fact. So you could make that. As the number 2, you could come right here and make this gap in time before the guy dives into it, if they're trying to. So that's pretty strong, which tells me then that You have a couple options if you want to bingo either side. So if you want to bingo the snake side, we've already talked about it. You can have this guy shoot here, and you can have what did we say? There was another shot. Where is it? Is it here? Not a great shot. What was it? There was a second snake shot. Maybe it's just the cross. Wow. Yeah, that's just the cross shot. So the snake run off the break is actually probably pretty safe. This gap right here is your biggest threat. Otherwise, if you pass this gap, I think you're pretty good to slide into the snake. So the snake route surprisingly only has one like really easy shot into it. But there's a lot of things that'll stop the snake afterwards. So I would actually, if I were you guys, I would be trying to take this bunker off the break every point and force them to do something to stop you. Force them to hit this shot, and if they are, then run baseline. But again, as a reminder, this bunker is really strong as well. So it's possible that we run our snake guy in here right away. And then, so like here's a really easy breakout to do. You send your number 1. He lines up on the inside of your number 2. As soon as he takes this bite past this can, then your number 2 comes out here and fills the corner. That's a very easy 1-2 punch is what we call it. So, and the snake and the guy at the number 2 spot right here is shooting Dorito way, while this guy right here shoots snake way. He's the number 2 on the Dorito side. Center looks empty. Yeah, it's pretty empty. But oh, excuse me. For those of you who are just tuning in and you're playing this layout, be sure to tune in or check in earlier in the stream. Give me just a second. I got to answer this call. All right, sorry about that. Okay, guys, we figured it out. Master plan, master puzzle. Here it is. So these are all the really key positions on the field. There's probably some others that I just missed, and there's definitely some that I'm kind of on the fence about. I didn't include this Aztec, the center Aztec, as a key position simply because it's very, very vulnerable. It is a very strong bunker to go to as a response to them making it past this gap right here, but just know that that's the reason I haven't included it. This is a very strong bunker to operate out of. It has actually really strong positions to hold both zones from either side of the field. I would not be surprised if we saw people doubling up this position, putting 2 people here. The 2 gaps that are very strong to shoot people off the break are these, which then makes it that the only viable reason to be playing the pin in the back center is to be shooting at those people. Okay, so if you find that if you find that you're playing these gaps and you're not getting any heat, that's fine. But if you start dying out on your wide angles or like in these gaps right here, then you need to make sure that one of the people that is playing the home, whether that's your 3 or one of the 2s, is then putting paint back at those people. Especially if they're like taking a knee or they're not moving or anything. That would be the only reason that you would play the home in the first in the breakout, in my opinion. There's really no other reason to be playing there. The gaps that this home can see are not great, and even after that, you need to get out of the back center because the back center gets pinched out super easy. So this is not a good bunker. The corner bunker here is super, super strong. It's essentially the go-to bunker for your number 2. So wherever your number 2 is going to end up on the field, he should probably be here at some point or another. I didn't really talk about this, but it is possible that if you have your snake guy, your number 1, all the way up here on their side of the snake, that I would probably just take the bite up into here to be right behind him. I would probably evacuate this corner bunker because, as we've said before, if you lose your front guy and you're all the way back here, well, now you've just lost all of this ground. So you just want to not be too far away. I would probably dive here, or you could even go here possibly. So just to be not super far away from him. As far as the Dorito side is concerned, you really actually don't see a whole lot in either of these 2 bunkers, and it's really just a race to get to this 50 Dorito, because as soon as you do, you actually kill the snake corner, which is a huge play. So this snake corner is going to be very important to pushing the snake. It's going to be very important for the snake corner to like shoot paint back at this guy or this guy or this guy or this guy. Like this corner is incredibly strong, and the way that you counter that is you get a guy in the Dorito 50 to then shoot the crossfield shot to kill him right away. That's like the very first shot you should take when you get to that Dorito corner, and then after that, when you pass the 50, it's like just shoot everybody in the back. But again, you have a lot of really interesting read and react routes, especially for the back center guy. So if the back center plays this dead zone, and their job is to shoot the snake the whole time, they can very easily go from here to here and hold that same gap. And then from here, if they pass it up to here and hold that gap as well, they just have so many options. You could also come here and surprise somebody, but this is a make or break. That's a huge high risk, high reward play. But just know that that's an option. And then again, like your number 2s on the Dorito side have a lot of options. So let's say, for example, your number 3 was going to play here, or rather, let's say your number 3 was going to play this side. Your number 2 could easily come here and pick up this zone right here, while your number 1 either goes here or goes here. Doesn't really matter, whatever's safest. And then that would naturally kick out your snake side. So your number 2 is going to be here, and your number 1 is going to probably be going to the snake. The snake route is very safe, like uncharacteristically so. So the snake runner is usually the highest risk runner that you're playing, but there is really only one shot that the snake can receive, which is this crossfield shot that we talked about. That is like a very hard gap to survive, but it's also doable. It's also, you can survive that shot. But beyond that, you're really hoping that you just don't get shot on the run from somebody that comes out here and like clears this valley, because that will be the biggest obstacle. If this gap does not exist or is much smaller than it is in this guns up layout right here, then that would be the only other alternative, because then you essentially you could have 2 people shooting that same gap, or essentially for the same guy, and that would be a big problem. But so far, at least as far as the layout's concerned, this is obstructing that pretty hard. So that's the layout. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. That's it. Sorry for the delay. I'm sorry for the interruption midstream, but you know, the wife takes top priority. So Hey, if you guys liked the layout review, please comment down below. Again, report back. Tell us what you learned, if what I said was true. It's always helpful to figure out, like, am I kind of on point or am I nowhere close, right? So obviously your mileage may vary using what I'm telling you, but I'm always curious to hear how the specific, like, little tweaks and game plans work. So that's it, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I'm going to end this portion of the stream and probably stream video games soon-ish. Don't know when exactly, but be on the lookout for that, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.